And we're going to get started. So number one, I want to welcome you all. I'm going to actually mute you all, but I want to just let you know that this is an interactive call. So I may call on you and then I'll say unmute yourself because you might forget, which we all seem to do. We start talking and then everybody's going, you're muted, you're muted. So this is our JP University call. It happens every Monday night at 5:30. The second, third, and fourth Mondays of the month are skill building on all kinds of things. Next Monday, by the way, is going to be on promoting and building for events. How do we get people to the most important things we do, which are events? And so that's what we're going to do next Monday. Tonight, we're learning about asking questions. And I am recording. And but the first Monday of the month, so Mondays, the second, third, and fourth are skill building. First Monday of the month is Mindset Monday. And so each first Monday, we're going to be talking about how to really get your mindset where it needs to be to do what we do. Because guess what? You're going to get lots of no's in this business. And if you don't have your mind in the right place, it's going to knock you off your seat. And we don't want you knocked anywhere. So tonight, though, is my favorite conversation because I am probably the most curious person I know. And it comes natural to me to ask a million questions about everything. But before we go, I have a question to start for you. Why is asking questions important, do you think? What does asking questions do for you? How is it relevant in your life? And you're muted, Noreen. So if you're going to answer, just unmute yourself. So Noreen, let's see.
Well, it helps you know what they want, where they're coming from.
So it helps you know what the person you're talking to may want. What else?
I think it helps you know where they're at in that moment because you don't know what had just happened to them. And I think asking them questions about, how their day is going, what's been going on, kind of gives you an idea of what what their mind frame is, where they're at.
Okay, great. So it gives you an inkling into where their life is in the moment that you're talking to them. Why else do we ask questions?
It helps you get to know them. Discovery.
Well, Sandy just said it helps you get to know the person. Why is that important? And not in the Juice Plus world. Why is it important anywhere, Sandy?
Because relationships are everything. And we really are in the business of building relationships.
Right. So that's a really key. Why else would we be asking questions?
Well, I'd say so you're not making any assumptions, like you really have all the details so that you know how to guide them and maybe what to recommend. You're not just assuming that they need something, you're hearing it from them. And by them telling you what they need, it reinforces in their brain that, oh yeah, I need this.
And if you didn't ask questions, what would your conversations look like?
Barful over them.
What's that?
You'd be barfing all over them.
You'd be talking too much if you didn't ask any questions. But I'm even thinking about, you meet a new neighbor in your neighborhood. What do you do when you greet a new person? Like, how do you get a conversation even started?
Ask questions.
Yeah. Where you come from, what made you decide to pick our neighborhood? You really want to get to know the people that you're talking to. Greeting in a neighborhood. Our business is the same. I would really love you to think of this as greeting somebody in your neighborhood, getting to know somebody, even in your neighborhood. A brand new neighbor moves in and you might say, I see you have kids. Do you know where the library is? Did anybody tell you that yet? Did you know that there was a playground down the street? So it's relevant in everything we do. And maybe if you thought of your possible new prospects that might become customers or somebody that might become a partner with you, what if you thought about them as your next door neighbor instead? Would that be easier to come up with questions about who they are, what they want, why they moved here, what they're looking for? And so let's just talk about some of the things that I think are important in asking questions. When I even go to, first of all, I'm going to stop there and see if anybody has any questions. Is there something that you need to ask around this topic? Okay, so for me, it gets back to what do people want? I know that people don't buy Juice Plus unless they see value. So our job is to help them see value. So how could we help somebody see value for them? Anybody? How do we find out what's valuable to them?
What problems are they having? What issues is going on in their life? That's what would concern them the most.
Yeah, you're going to ask them what they're looking for. Because, for example, I love this example. I think that was in Ditch the Pitch. By the way, that's a really great book to read about having great conversations. But it's a salesman who's talking to a family that walks in and they want to look at a van. And he keeps focusing on how many seats there are for the kids and that the kids can watch, DVDs in them and how great it's going to be to travel with the kids. But what was also important to this family is that she was an artist and she needed to know that the seats went down and that she could fit all of her art in. He just assumed that the only reason they wanted a van was because they had children. How many of you, when you're talking to a brand new person and they have kids, you immediately start talking about the family healthy starts? Anybody do that? I used to do that all the time. Two things happen. Sometimes I've had mothers say, I don't really care about them right now. I have no energy. I need to get Juice Plus. I just have to get healthy. I'll deal with them later. And some parents will say, I don't really care about me. I got to get my kids started on it. So it's critical to find out what it is that they're looking for. So what are some questions that you could perhaps ask in a conversation? Let's just say you've called up a friend. Maybe they know you do Juice Plus or not. Maybe you know a little bit about them. Maybe you know, for example, that they've complained in the past that their kids get sick all the time. How could that conversation be furthered with questions? Anybody else? Maybe Caprice or Nancy, you've been on a couple of the calls. Sue? How could
Nikki,
you?
I'll go.
Yeah.
I'd just say, hey, how your kids doing? Or are they staying healthy this time of year? Because there's a lot of stuff going around.
Yeah, and then they say, yeah, they get sick all the time. Remember, here's my motto. Every time someone says something, what are you guys going to do?
Ask a question.
Ask a question. So they've said, yeah, suggested the kids are getting sick a lot this year. What are your kids doing? And she says to you, Patty, well, they've been getting the flu a lot.
And I say, God, I kind of remember this thing going on a long time. What are you doing different to try to make things shift?
So asking what they're doing to prevent the flu. What other things could you ask around that? Anybody have anything on a whole different idea what you could be asking them? And I'm going to give you a hint. Go for emotions. Anybody?
How does that make you feel when your kids are sick? How does that impact, your life?
Yeah, how does that impact your life? And they say, well, I miss work a lot. When you miss work, what happens then? I'm really frustrated and I might not be able to have a vacation day. What's happening when I'm digging deep about these kids who are getting sick? It doesn't sound like we're talking about Juice Plus. I've asked them emotionally what's going on. Are they frustrated? What's their time like? What's work like for them? It doesn't much sound like a Juice Plus conversation. What's happening in that conversation?
Helping discover their values. What's important to them.
Yeah, you're discovering their values. The problem is the kids are sick, but the values are, I miss work. I love work. My kids don't feel well. I haven't found anything that works and I kind of feel like I'm a bad mom. Who has now sold them on making a change? Me or them?
Them.
They've sold themselves. They hear themselves talking about a situation they may not even know. All of those things that we discovered in that conversation. So then I might say something like, I have something, I'm not sure it's an exact match for you, but I think it might really help in those areas and help your kids get well. If I sent you a video, would you be open and watch it? But I'm not even going to offer that until they've told me about their values and what they're looking for, right? Mm-hmm. So does somebody have another example of something that they would, they can't think of a question. They're in a situation and they wish they could think of more questions. Anybody need any help there? Like they just met somebody recently and they didn't know what to say or do. Nancy.
Well, I wasn't gonna go there because I'm in that situation all the time. I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But no, what I was gonna say to your previous though, when you're asking the questions, I think what you're doing too is you're establishing a relationship with that person and they feel like you really care about what's going on with them.
Yeah.
That was just my other thing that I noticed. But I 9 times out of 10, I don't know what to say to people.
All right. Can you give me an example recently where you met or talked to somebody and you didn't know what to say? Let's play with it just for a moment.
Oh,
Sandy, I meant to bring those list of questions that Brandon gave us because I'm just a good question asker. If you have them handy, that would be, oh, you know what? I think I printed them off actually. They may right be here because I will be posting them. I got it. Never mind. I'm good. I'm so good, you guys. Okay. That's another thing I like to do. When I do something I think is really smart, I like to acknowledge myself because you can't ever be acknowledged enough. So Nancy, can you give us a situation where you wished you could have thought of something to say?
well, I guess it's more that what I said was maybe the wrong thing.
Okay, give us a hint. Can you?
So I work with a gal who has chronic fatigue syndrome.
Okay,
And I have been talking to her a month, for months. I've been working with her for a long time. And just, I let her know how it makes me feel better. Our boss's husband has Crohn's disease and it has helped him. And she knows all this. And so I just keep saying, I can help you with that,
okay.
but I don't ask her the questions.
So let's go back.
Other
Let's
than
go
how
back.
she feels.
Yeah, so let's go back. So what you were doing was telling her, even though it was from your experience, which is beautiful, telling them a ton about the product is probably not going to be the best thing to do. Sharing your experience is definitely a great thing to do, Nancy. So number one, acknowledge yourself for sharing the experience that you've had.
Mhm.
Acknowledge yourself for sharing the boss's experience because it's somebody else that she knows, and acknowledge yourself for your persistence. So those are 3 things you've done great. And you started the conversation was, I probably did this all wrong, right? So I just want to make sure that we are acknowledging each other for what we do really well. But let's just say that if I was somebody in your office and I knew that Mary had fibromyalgia or chronic fatigue, I probably would start a conversation and you be her for a second, okay? You just be her for a second. So I'm gonna say, hey, Nancy, how are you today?
Gosh, I hurt everywhere today. The weather is cold and it affects my fibromyalgia and I feel terrible.
I am so sorry you're suffering. That just must be really hard to have that be happening all day long.
It is. I can't even half the time hold a pen.
So how do you get through the day? What do you do that lets you propel yourself through the day with that kind of pain and that kind of exhaustion?
I just do it because I know I have to.
Wow.
And then at the end of the day, I just crash and burn.
Yeah, when you go home, what's it like? Do you just plop on the couch and not be able to move?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And are you able to feed yourself really well when that goes on? Because if you're so tired, who the heck is going to cook you a great dinner?
Yeah, no, I don't. Sometimes I might just come home and make some popcorn and that's it.
Yeah. So I am curious, are you on any kind of medication at all? Or are you doing any kind of supplements that you think could help? Have you ever looked into anything?
I do have some medication from the doctor.
Okay. It sounds like it's not working great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really am so sorry. And if you could find something that was just all natural that could make a difference, would you want to explore more about it?
Absolutely. I would prefer to do things natural.
Okay, now notice I used the word explore. I didn't say, would you be interested in taking it, interested in trying it, interested in whatever, interested in seeing more information? I asked her about exploring. People want to explore, okay? So is there anything else that you feel like is important in this conversation that we're having that would be helpful for me to get some information to you that might help you explore this better. Is there anything else that you'd be willing to share?
Well, like I said, sometimes I don't eat right. So, you know, if you had something on better eating habits or something like that.
Wow, that sounds great. So, okay, so we're going to stop there. And because I am a master asker, I didn't look at the questions that I have written down, but I want you to write these down right now. Here are some questions that if you can't think of the next thing to say, these are the questions you can ask. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Tell me more. So when she said, you know, I get home and I whatever, and I could say, well, tell me more about what it's like when you eat popcorn. Does it give you any energy? Tell me more about that. Or when she said during the day, she just pushes through barely. And I can say, well, help me understand what that must be like. So tell me more, help me understand. Number 3, what's that like? And I did ask that when she said she went home and she's exhausted. I said, what's that like for you? She said, well, I just crash. What's that like? And then how does that make you feel? I didn't ask that one, although we did get a little bit into emotions. But if I asked her, how does that make you feel all day at work? She might have answered something like, I don't feel like I'm performing my job very well here. And that doesn't feel like I am living up to the person I know I can be, right? So how does that make you feel? Are you okay? Are you know, she's suffering. Are you okay? No, I'm not really. I'm having a hard time. Are you okay? 2 more. Can you say more about that? If you can't think of anything else to say, you can have these questions, especially if you're on the phone in front of you, and just glance down and say, she said something, I don't know what to ask her. Oh, I can just say more about that. And the final one is there anything else that you would like to share with me or that would be important for me to know? Is there anything else that would be important for me to know? So those are some really great questions. And I think Sandy might have put them in the chat, which you can probably take a screenshot of them if you didn't all get them down. But I'm going to stop there. We've only got 3 more minutes of this call. Does asking questions feel more important to you now than it did a half hour ago? And can you see how it can really change your relationship with someone? So here's some suggestions I have. So if you happen to live with a partner, some of you may not, but if you live with a partner, number 1, the next time they say to you, I think I'm going to go watch football right now, what could you ask them? No matter what they say, can you ask them something? What game is playing tonight? Which team would you like to win? Will you be recording it so you can skip all the commercials? You know, that's what Chris wouldn't watch a game unless he could record it. It was hilarious, just would not watch a game. And then if you talked about the game, he would be going, don't tell me the end, I don't want to know anything. It was hilarious. So, so again, you know, your friend says, you know, I'm going shopping today. I got some errands to run. Oh, really? What could you ask? My friend just said, I've got some errands to run. What are some questions you could do?
Where are you going?
Where are you going? What else?
What are you shopping for?
What are you shopping for? Oh, I'm shopping for a new can opener. A can opener? How come you need a new can opener? Like immediately, like it doesn't seem like the can opener would have a question, but it does have a question. Do you know the brand that you're going to get? I've been looking for a can opener myself. I'm needing a new one. What are you going to get? You know, there's electric ones, there's hand ones. Do you ever have the experience with a hand one when your hand hurts? You can't open a can, anybody? So I think I just asked 5 questions about the can opener. All right. I'm taking my dog to the vet. Question.
Is it a routine visit or is he sick?
Yeah. Is it a routine visit or it's sick? I think he got something in his foot.
Oh my gosh, how did he do that?
How did he do that? We were on the beach and all of a sudden he started limping and I barely could get him home.
Oh no, was he bleeding?
I mean, you see that? It can go on. You could probably do it till ad nauseum, asking questions if you wanted. So my suggestion, especially Nancy, you know, is to no matter what anybody says, and maybe it won't be appropriate if your boss says you need to go do such and such, you're not going to ask him why. Well, you might ask him why, because you really do need to know why. But there may be times where you're not going to ask them a question, but what if you just thought of a question and didn't ask it? Like, what if you practiced asking questions even when you feel uncomfortable? And I can tell you that in my family, my father had no filter, zero filter. So he asked everybody everything that you're not supposed to ask. I watched that. So I just thought everybody just asked questions. But I had a distributor one night who said she had just gotten off the phone with her really good friend who was having a really tough time. I don't know the friend. And so I said, what's wrong? What's happening with her? Like, first of all, it's none of my business. And why is it important to me? I don't even know her. But my natural thing was, what's happening with her? And she said, I didn't ask. And I said, didn't you just tell me this is one of your best friends? And she said, yes. And I said, so I'm curious why you didn't ask. She said, in my family, we were told we were never supposed to ask a personal question. That's what she learned. That was her programming as a young child. She's still living out a program from her parents that's not only not serving her in this business, but it didn't serve her and her best friend. So I'm going to just tell you, if you're not curious, Crystal, do you have the same thing in your family? Was, you're not supposed to ask personal questions, right? That's what Crystal said, me too. So I'm going to offer you up to put on your curious hat, Curious George, and literally be thinking about how can you be more curious in your life? And how will it make your life more exciting? And how will it deepen your relationships all the way around, but impact your business and impact people's health? So I'm going to challenge you to become a master asker. So I'm going to just stop right there. We're really done. But if anybody has a question, I'll answer it.
A comment. You asked a question earlier about like, what would that be like if you did it all the time? And for me, it would get me in the practice so that it would be like, I wouldn't have to think about it. It would just be part of the conversation.
Yeah, it just becomes very natural. Practice makes perfect, except for it really doesn't. Practice just makes it better. We don't need to be perfect. That's way too hard. All right.
Great training, Nikki. Thank you.
Thank you.
Love you all. Have a great
Thank
evening.
you.
And go out and ask
Bye,
your
everyone.
partner three questions
Thank
that you have,
you.
no matter what he's talking about or she's talking about. And if you don't have a partner in your life, ask your dog, ask your cat, go to the mirror and ask yourself some questions.
Awesome training.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.